Did you know in the recent general election, the turnout of women voters was just 0.1% less than male voters? A few years ago, this proportion used to be 10%. Did you know in the last 10 years, the government of India banked 25 crore women? Hello and welcome to another edition of Capital Calculus. I am your host Anil Padmanabhan. Last week, the Election Commission of India set in motion the next round of state elections. Ahead of it, incumbent governments in Maharashtra, Jharkhand and Haryana rolled out a direct benefit transfer scheme in cash. They specifically targeted women voters. Frankly, there's nothing new in this because this is something that we have seen play out in recent round of state elections as well as the just concluded general election. But what this does is to put the spotlight on women voters, an electoral cohort that has been long ignored or at the least taken for granted. How will this change India's politics? How will it impact democracy? To answer this and more, I spoke to Rahul Verma. He's a fellow at the Delhi-based think tank Center for Policy Research and a veteran political analyst. I began by asking Rahul what he thought of the recent trend of targeting women voters through direct benefit transfers in cash.
I think there are a couple of issues. First, this idea of announcing a lot of schemes, welfare schemes, whether you call it freebies or populist measure, I think now has been there for almost a decade. What happened in last 10 years is a shift towards a focused approach in terms of targeting women. And the third thing which has happened in last 4 or 5 years, and perhaps this has happened because of increase in number of bank accounts for women, where you can directly transfer cash to their accounts. So these three things, in that sense, are like have a different kind of history, and they are also happening because of the nature of, I think, politics that is evolving. It seems that political parties are combining three things. One, in most cases, you'll have a popular face at the state level or at the national level. Second, what they are doing is not renominating many MLAs or MPs, saying that they might be going through local level anti-incumbency. So the vote is going to be in the name of the face rather than local candidates. And third, they are making these announcement of schemes, which is again tied to the leader rather than the party or the candidate. Right. So this mix is what is also sort of like in our political system, we are seeing centralization within political parties, and the campaign is centered on a single face or a single leader, and schemes are also linked with that. So this is a development. In that sense, parties seem to think, and I would call it as the fake fact of Indian politics. They think that by making these announcements at the last minute, they can turn the elections. I don't think, if you have not done well for 4.5 years, by making these announcements in last 6 months, you cannot completely overturn the things. You may bring some small shifts here and there, but completely changing the tune would be very, very difficult.
Rahul, going back to our DBT conversation, you make this very interesting point that since 25 crore bank accounts have been created in the last 10 years for women, you have actually created a platform to move DBT, cash
Hmm.
DBT.
Hmm.
So, is this the new phase of populism or a new chapter in this whole business of populism?
I think yes, that's right. In some ways, politicians would always want to do things that is visible to a larger section of the society, that they are doing this kind of thing for them. And so 25, 30 years ago, I think in rural India, the way they would try to bring voters to them by making a road or building a bridge somewhere. I think that model is getting changed because all of this is now centrally coordinated through ministries. And uh, this platform of basically having more bank accounts has given another leeway for politicians to make this happen very very close to election. So think of this like the first big instance of this happened in 2019 or just before the 2019 election, when the government announced that 6,000 rupees are going to be transferred to farmers across the country, right? And so in some ways, just before the election, if you can make a large constituency see something in their accounts in terms of cash and wherever they want to spend another thing, that's is now the new phase. This could be easily done. There is going to be less leakages or corruption in that sense. Everyone is much more likely to receive that amount rather than if you are trying to transfer something in kind. And so it further helps the leader who's making these announcements or giving them to create another, add another feather to his or her image.
Interesting. So, what is your research? Because you have been tracking this subject for quite some time. So, what is it telling you? Is it actually influencing voting patterns or is it being exaggerated?
So to me, I think it is being exaggerated. See, in any election, I think there are multiple factors that shape the outcome. And among those factors, it's going to be the social arithmetic, it's going to be leaders' popularity, it's going to be your performance as government, and it's going to be sort of party organizational machinery and campaign and narrative. And in that sense, I think delivery of welfare and these populist promises also matter. They can, and the way I'm saying is it influences less the section of voters who are committed to any political party, uh, but it matters to a large section of voters who you will call as swing voters or floating voters. But what I'm also trying to say is that the announcement of these schemes alone cannot turn the tide in your favor. It can make marginal differences if elections are really tight, and maybe it can make a difference of 2 to 3%. But if you are running a government, your chief minister is seen as corrupt, there is a factional fight going on. I don't think you can suddenly turn the tide. And like to everyone, I keep giving this example is Karnataka 2023. You had 5 years of BJP, and in the run up to election, Congress made five announcements, what they can call as guarantees, and BJP also made similar announcement. But BJP lost Karnataka and they lost it badly, despite making those announcements. And so, to me, the reason is not just making those announcements, but because in some ways your chief minister was not seen very competent. There were charges of corruption on him. Uh, BJP in Karnataka is geographically narrow party. It has lesser presence in the southern Karnataka region. So these schemes can help you to get only so far, or announcement of these schemes can get you only so far. They can definitely help you in reaching out to a new constituency, right? But it cannot alone keep those voters with you. I do think that what has happened between 2014 and 2024, and happy to talk about women voters separately, but BJP, which was being considered as a rural upper caste, middle class, urban upper caste, middle class party, managed to make inroads among poorer segments of the society, rural areas, and also among lower caste. And these welfare schemes definitely have played a role in making those inroads. But you cannot keep that constituency with you just on these promises alone. There has to be multiple other things that must be happening simultaneously.
Interesting. So, Rahul, the fact that it's not really a linear reaction that you offer this and you tilt the scales in your favor, but yet politicians persist. Does it have something to do with aspirations? Because aspirations have really taken off in the last 2 decades. So people are looking for tangibles, whereas previously building a road is a public good. So the benefits accrue in an indirect way. So is it that reason also contributing to the fact that politicians are persisting with the scheme, though the returns are questionable?
So there are, let me offer three hypotheses. I don't have an answer to this very interesting question. I think first, at a larger or global level, there is a consensus emerging within the political class that the welfare state has to be large. And you will see announcements of these populist or welfare schemes in all economies. And this perhaps is happening because the political class realizes that the benefits of economic growth is not reaching to everyone. And if you want to keep the democratic system sort of competitive and alive and other things, we need to find ways other than the market to reach to these poor and needy segments. So I think you will see this happening everywhere, and that's part of, I think, a global consensus within the political class. Two, I would say, just to take your point on the aspirations forward, it is, of course, aspirations, but also, I think, the economic anxiety. So, along with aspirations, there is anxiety. You have larger segment of population that is now getting, like, say, intermediate or graduate degrees. But those degrees are not enough to get them a stable income in the job market. And in some ways, so there is some sort of expectations from the state or the politician that we don't have a stable income to meet our requirements. Can the politician or state do something for them to ease that pain? So I think that's the second thing why this is happening. Third, I would say, and long back, a political scientist who has done field work in India for very, very long time told me that it's like a game of poker, that everyone has to basically put the chip in before the game can begin. So if you are not going to make a promise, you are more likely to lose. If you are going to make a promise, it does not mean that you will win, but at least you are likely to be competitive. So making these kind of announcement are actually important for all the narratives that get are built around the election. And so if you haven't done anything, then, or haven't made any kind of announcement, then there are chances of negative sentiments getting built around you. But that does not, like, if you make announcement, it does not mean that you will reap benefits.
So in politics, it's always what you're seen to be doing, not really
Huh.
what you're doing. I guess it fits that
Yes.
bill. Rahul,
Yeah.
wanted to ask you that there's another perspective to all of this, increased focus on women. Is it also a case now that women as an electoral constituency have now crossed that critical mass and they are a segment large enough that you cannot any longer ignore them or at least take them for granted?
That is true. I don't think there is any doubt about this. There are two, three things have happened for women voters in last 3 decades. First, I think what happened is that their registrations as electors started increasing. So still, women are less likely to be registered as voters, but the registration rates have gone up. So now, within the eligible voter pool, you have greater share of women than you had before. Second, what has started happening is that their turnout increased. So if in 1970s or 80s the gap between male and female turnout used to be in double digits, now by 2019 the gap actually closed, and in some states women turnout exceeds men turnout. Now that may be happening because of multiple reasons. I'm not at all trying to make this an argument about women sort of like getting economically more empowered and that's bringing them to polls. It could also be an effect of that men migrate to different cities for work, and so male turnout get depressed and female turnout. So it's a combination of multiple factors, I think. The third, what has started happening in last 10 to 15 years, that we have started seeing divergence in male and female voting patterns. And so in many states, female voters are likely to tilt in favor of one particular party, and that gives them advantage. So Mamta Banerjee receives that advantage in West Bengal. In UP 2017 and 2017 and 22, I think both elections, BJP had that advantage. In Madhya Pradesh, last election, BJP had that advantage. In the Tamil Nadu, when Jayalalitha was alive, AIDMK used to have that advantage. So I think this tilt is also coming again because of multiple things. One, of course, these leaders have tried to bring welfare to the core of their politics and targeting women voters. But there are multiple other things. For example, I don't think in UP, BJP received the benefit of women voters because of welfare, but more because of their sort of campaign on law and order situation, right? And so what we haven't done as researcher or as analyst is to dissect which group of women are sort of like shifting their loyalties in favor of one party versus other. At the moment we are thinking of women as monolithic voting bloc rather than poor women versus sort of like upper middle class women, younger women versus older, rural, urban. And in that sense, I think there the differences are because of different factors that I can sort of think of.
What are we seeing here? Are we seeing the emergence of a new trend, and how will it impact our polity?
Yeah, I think this trend, which you also pointed out, has been in motion for significant number of years, if not decades, for sure, right? And you are absolutely right. This increase in women registration or turnout and voting for different parties is not an effect of, say, women's political agency alone. Even if there is women's political agency, it's not happening only because of economic improvements in their life. There is a mobilizational effect which is happening through SHGs. I think political parties also realizing that women is a separate like at least they should be mobilized separately. So you're seeing more women politician entering into the political market. Are they succeeding or not? That's a different question. But think of it: the 1992 constitutional amendment for Panchayati Raj started with 33% reservation for women, which in most cases is now 50%. So every year, you are basically getting more than 1 million elected, not every year, but every cycle, you are getting more than 1 million elected women politicians. And so some of them are present in the system, which is also leading to a different kind of political environment. Something also is very important, and we don't give this enough weightage, I think, is mobile phones, and especially the smartphones, right? The penetration of mobile phones, of course, women are less likely to have access to it, but the penetration of smartphones in last 5 to 7 years has increased in massive ways. And so what it is doing, that even when we are living in the same household, our information channels are different. Earlier, everyone was watching the same news or reading the same newspaper. Now, I look at very different things compared to what my sister or mother or brother or father is looking at. So because of the information channels are also changing, that's also is responsible for some of this emerging trends that we are seeing.
I have always maintained that politicians are extremely clever. They have their ears to the ground and can hence sense trends much faster than most of us. Another matter, though, that some of them are unable to exploit this head start they enjoy. In this instance, politicians have read the tea leaves and figured that Indian women voters have now acquired a critical mass. They can no longer be ignored or taken for granted. This is a very healthy trend because what it will do is to broaden and deepen Indian democracy. But at the same time, it also means that the homework for Indian politicians just went up. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to StratNews Global on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates, and please to share your thoughts, ideas and suggestions with us. I'm available on Twitter at Capital Calculus. I'll be back next week with another episode. Till then, stay safe.